Hi there. I'd like to talk today with you about occult power and what that is from an order of nine angles perspective. Um, for most, when they think of occult power, they're thinking spells and ways to affect the phenomenal world with the force of their willpower or the force of their actions, modalities, things like that. Usually, it's a fantastical sort of thing when they think of occult power. They're thinking of it as something purely mystical, something that doesn't really have much to do with everyday life, and that's incorrect, or at least incomplete. If you do a spell and you burn some candles and whatnot, what have you, you arrange your stones, you're wearing your talismans, you got your ritual all written out and everything like that, and you're going for it. Sure, sure. If that's what you feel like you need to get it done, then go ahead and do that. With the ONA, it's a bit different. Most definitely, occult power is more so a matter of actual attainment than any kind of subjective, quality. For example, well, no, let me digress for a moment. The ONA initiate does not believe, at least from the grade of internal adept onward, they do not ascribe to the factor of performing acts that are ritualistic or ceremonial in nature to get things done. They are becoming their magic, so to speak. I don't even really like using that word magic. I believe I said this in another video. It's just I don't feel like it is the correct or complete term. The ONA initiate is more apt to build certain qualities which may not be seen as magical by most, but really when you look into them, they are, like things like empathy and compassion, because the unison of two individuals' consciousness is definitely a magical act, especially when it is done, I want to say, subversively, without the other individual's knowledge, sort of hacking their soul, so to speak. For your own purposes and the purposes of the dialectic. I'm not going to talk at all really about specific grade rituals or anything like that. I mean, I might at a much later date, but really, that's not where I'm at. I don't have any more use for those things. So I'm really speaking to those individuals who have transcended systems, so to speak. Now, scientifically, because I do this, I break down everything into an actual scientific base. Like, it has to actually be rooted in reality somewhere. Like, I mean, if you are talking about magic, that's great, but I don't want to just talk for no reason with you about magic, or altering time and space, so to speak. We're going to get into a deeper conversation about the scientific underpinnings of what we're actually discussing. So, when it comes to thought, brainwave activity and everything, these are things that can be actually physically monitored and looked at and recorded. We can see what brainwave state an individual is in, beta, alpha, theta, deep theta, delta, gamma, epsilon, etc., so forth, what have you. Now, when an individual is quote-unquote vibing with someone, this is actually what is going on, is there is an actual synchronicity of brainwaves between those two or more individuals, and they are in fact in sync. They're in fact synchronized. Their consciousness is literally operating on the same wavelength. Now, consciousness itself is merely a tool. It's merely a modality for awareness, and awareness is the mover and shaker behind consciousness. You know, consciousness can perceive this or that, but awareness is the one that does the perceiving through the lens of consciousness. So altering consciousness would then be intrinsic to being able to perform magic, or it would be intrinsic in the acquisition of occult power, the gestalt of occult power. Occult meaning hidden, of course, so therefore uses of this ability must also be hidden, or at least concealed within a general framework. For example, if I wanted something from you, I would not do a ritual to get that thing. I would become your friend. I would analyze you. I would figure you out by allowing myself to become you to a degree, and observing myself be you apart from both of us. And I would manipulate that situation, and the eventual outcome would be that I would get what I wanted. You would never know this is happening. So it's not something that you can really even feel negative about, because 9 times out of 10, the subject of an ONA initiate's occult power will be grateful for their manipulation, honestly, because it will reveal something to them. They won't even know that they've been manipulated. Unless the practitioner is failing or is not very tactical with their doings. So to go back, let's say the two people are operating in sync and everything. It requires an individual to be able to consciously control their consciousness. I know it sounds a bit redundant, but consciousness is definitely a fractal. It's definitely fractal in nature, and there's infinite levels and modalities of diversity. So you have to be able to navigate that and be able to control that, which means to operate with occult power, to be able to use occult power, you must be able to understand occult power, and you cannot understand occult power if you have not experienced occult power or become occult power. So what that then requires is that the individual's fundamental mindset must be altered permanently. There can't be a it's not like other spiritual paths where it's a constant maintenance of certain aspects of personality. This is not about personality. This is about your state of being, what you are inside, not just who you are inside. And it must come from that fountain, that inner nexion, which all ONA initiates are striving to activate within themselves and then indeed become. You can think of it as a black hole within your soul that sucks in the extraneous parts of you, and all that's left is this infinitely unknowable, mysterious darkness that can assume any form whatsoever. That is occult power. The ability to change yourself to become anything and do anything and be good at anything that you want to do to accomplish this aim or that aim or what have you. And then, of course, there's different levels of this occult power. There's aeonics, and there's there are the insight roles, of course. But I would say aeonics is really the culmination, is the penultimate I say, realization of occult power. the ability to alter the timeline of even just an individual or a group of individuals or a timeline, or history itself. This is definitely potent juju. So how can that occur if the individual themselves hasn't transcended their humanity, hasn't transcended their demographical state, hasn't transcended their philosophical state, their mental state, their emotional state, and their spiritual state, and indeed the idea that they have any one of these, or that any one of these is in fact permanent. So I would say, to sum it up, occult power for the Order of Nine Angles initiate is the acquisition of the numinous, or that which is super-personal or beyond oneself, that is oneself, and the sort of exchange of your fundamental consciousness for the true you. Now, other groups call this the Holy Guardian Angel, etc., and treat it as something external from you, and then, bit by bit, you come to the knowledge that you are, in fact, your Holy Guardian Angel, what have you, things like that. I'm doing away with all of the pretense, and just breaking it down. If you look at the world around you and look at the universe around you, the fact of the matter that you do not actually touch anything. You've never touched anything in your entire life. Every single atom has an electron valence around it, and this valence is a bubble of thou shalt not pass, and atoms don't actually touch each other. They interact electronically or electrically, but they don't actually make physical contact. So you're only perceiving the electromagnetic signal and interpreting that, much like Morpheus. He said, what is it? He said, reality is only signals being interpreted by your brain. And I mean, it's true. It's true. The same thing with color. I mean, we see things that are shapes and colors and things like that, so we already know that we haven't actually felt these objects. Have we seen them, though? I mean, if you look at something red or blue or green or yellow, you say that it is red or blue or green or yellow, but in fact, how could it be any of those things? Those colors are what's reflecting off of the object and back into your eye, not being absorbed by the object and defining its actual color. So how can you say that you've seen anything? So if you have not seen anything and you have not touched anything, then do you exist? Are you real? Or are you an extension of consciousness from some place that is very dark? Then again, it goes to pose the question, are some people just illusions? Like, some people, maybe not everybody, but some people, are they not real? Like, really not real. Their body may be real, but they're not imbued with consciousness. Not really. They have a biological cellular matrix which interacts with itself and then defines the parameters of their form and function, but this does not necessarily mean that they are in fact alive. Does that make sense? Much in the way that you can pass a vibration through a bunch of beads on a table and they'll start to arrange themselves in geometric patterns of very high organization, but it does not mean that those beads are alive, let alone capable of affecting things outside of themselves, quote unquote, outside of themselves. So if one has accepted this non-reality, how then could they not exercise occult power? The very fact of their being, the very essence of their nature, is unknowable to the average individual, and so therefore any action taken by them will be seen as magical. Nobody will really understand how things that they do get done, or how they do the things that they do, or could do the things that they do in some circumstances. I hope that this has been somewhat informative and I don't want to say enlightening, just informative, food for thought. That occult power has more to do with you than anything that you are doing. Yep. All right, people.